When you hear the words black cake, what comes to mind? Something dark, something incredibly dense and rich, and maybe just a little intimidating to bake? You're not wrong. For many, its deep, boozy flavor is an acquired taste, and the whole process feels like a family secret passed down through generations. But what if I told you that you could get all that rich, festive flavor in a cake that is simpler and absolutely foolproof to make? You've come to the right place.
Today I am going to be sharing with you my recipe for the easiest black cake that you ever make. It's perfect for anyone who finds the regular black cake a bit much in terms of how dense it is. And let's be honest, a lot of us don't really start soaking our fruits until last minute. And I'm sure I have a lot of you here. So we're going to begin by creaming our butter and sugar. I have 113 grams of softened butter, and we're gonna add our brown sugar to this.
Begin by beating softened butter and sugar together. The sugar crystals cut into the butter, creating tiny air pockets. This process continues until the mixture is light in color and fluffy in texture. And overall, this helps us to get a very light cake. The more you beat it, the lighter the cake will become. By creating these air pockets, the creaming method provides a base for leavening agents like baking powder or baking soda to expand and create a light and airy final product.
Now let's shift this aside and let's work on the eggs. A lot of us don't like this white section in the egg, that little shredding, because it gives a very kind of rawness to the egg. Smells a bit eggy. So I just like to go in and take it out. Or even take out as much as I can, because sometimes it's a bit difficult to get out. I'm going to zest one lime into the eggs. The heart and soul of a black cake is actually the fruits that give that cake that aroma, especially when you soak it for that full year. It gives you a really old-fashioned type of black cake. And not everyone soak their fruits the same way. So I will not come here and tell you how to soak your Christmas fruits. Everyone likes to stew it, soak it differently. And let's continue to cream it.
The correct way to add the eggs is to add it one at a time as you mix. And this is why my eggs are curdled. What happens to the butter and the eggs? The butter is like an elastic and it expands. And as you add the eggs one at a time, the butter actually sucks the eggs in.
So now we're going to add our fruits. And this is a 30-minute stewed fruits that I have right here on my channel. And I will leave a link for this in the description box. We know that a lot of us don't have a lot of time to soak fruits, and stewing fruits is an easy way to get all that flavor, your alcohol, and whatever flavors you want to add in the fruits. So this is my 30-minute fruits, and you will find it down in the description box, or I will pin it somewhere just above there. And let's add some marshmallow cherries. And let's add some warm dry spices. I have cinnamon, and I'm gonna grate about quarter of a nutmeg. Fresh nutmeg is best. Let's add a teaspoon of ginger, fresh ginger, and 2 tablespoons of vanilla. Scrape the bowls down. This is very, very important because you want to make sure that it's mixing properly. Like any good cake, we'll handle our ingredients in wet and dry segments. In this bowl I have 1 cup of cake flour and half cup of all-purpose flour, which give the cake a very, very light texture. I'm going to add 2.5 teaspoon of baking powder and just about half teaspoon of salt. And you want to use a whisk or you want to sift it, but because I'm using a lot of cake flour, using a whisk is probably best because sometimes when the cake is too light, it gets too dry as it has too much air in it. Now that our dry ingredients are ready, let's set it aside and let's build the cake overall. In this bowl, I have some of my wet ingredients, and this is malt. I use 1 malter to do this, but if you are not using malter, because I do not consume alcohol, you would put half cup of alcohol of your choice and 1 cup of malta. And then we're gonna add our browning. So let's go ahead and add our dry ingredients half at a time. We're gonna start with the dry.
Sifting the dry ingredients gives us no surprises such as clumps and helps to create a lighter texture that we're going to go for. This cake is not going to look light, but it's actually going to be light in texture. Black cakes can be made in many different ways and many different textures. You can put many different flavors, even making fruits from scratch.
And click the notification bell, and this helps my channel to grow and helps me to make much more content. And let's add all our browning, and this is homemade browning, and I will leave a link to this in the description box. Let's add the rest of flour. The key to alternating between the wet and the dry is not to over mix the cake. As I mentioned before, a cake can be very light, especially if you're using cake flour, but it can be very dry also. So hence the reason I always use a little bit of all-purpose flour when I am using cake flour. You can add more browning to this if you wish, but I am not going to add any more browning than it already has. We're going to test the cake, and once the spoon stands up in it for just about a second or two, we'll know that the cake is going to have the perfect texture. As the cake goes in the oven, it's going to get a very deeper brown. It's going to continue to caramelize, and it's going to have a very nice brown to it. So you don't want to add too much browning to get it to this color. The color that I have here is perfectly fine. So let's do the test, the spoon test. And I'm going to add a smaller spatula in it. And there you go. So we know we have a very good cake, good texture. It's going to stand up very moist. Now we are on the last step, baking. So in my pan I have a sheet of parchment paper and I buttered it, but you don't have to put flour. You can base it with a little bit of oil, or you can use flour and butter, which I find it makes the cake edges a bit white, and that is something that I don't like. So we're going to pour our batter in our pan, and this recipe makes 1/8 inch cake. And we're going to bake this on very low heat. When you bake cake at a very high heat, it tends to crack. You have a higher risk of it cracking. So I want to bake it at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for about an hour and a half, or until the toothpick was inserted and it comes out nice and clean. Our black cake is done and it's pretty hot still, and I'm going to leave this to cool overnight before I cut it into it. I don't like to cut my black cake on the same day.
And here you have it, a stunning black cake that is light, incredibly moist, and packed with flavor. And you've also got a secret how to get a very smooth top to your black cake without months of prep. Just look at this slice. You can see that it's tender crumb. It isn't heavy or dense at all. It's rich and spiced, but it's also balanced, just so easy to love. This is all the proof you need that black cake doesn't have to be intimidating. If you give this simplified recipe a try, I'd love to hear. Thanks for baking with me today.